Rain hammered against bulletproof glass while Serena Vale sat at the wrong table inside the most dangerous restaurant in the city. A woman drowning in debt wearing a borrowed dress, waiting for a blind date who would never arrive because he was already dead in an alley 3 blocks away. Then Adrian Dragunov walked through the door with armed men and eyes like winter, looked at her sitting in his reserved seat and said 6 words that shattered her entire world. "You sat at my table. You're mine now." By morning, Serena would discover her missing date had been part of a human trafficking ring, that she'd unknowingly walked into a trap meant to erase her forever, and that the terrifying man who claimed her wasn't her captor. He was the only reason she was still breathing. If you want to know whether love can survive inside a monster's heart, stay until the end. Hit that like button and comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The restaurant didn't have a name on the door. That should have been Serena's first warning. Maison Noire sat tucked between a closed bookstore and a wine shop that never seemed open, accessible only through an unmarked entrance where a man in a black suit checked names against a list he never showed anyone. The kind of place where reservations were made through whispered phone calls and credit cards were never declined because the people who ate there didn't worry about things like limits or consequences. Serena walked past the doorman with her phone clutched tight in one hand and her heart hammering against her ribs like it was trying to escape. The host, tall, severe, wearing an expression that suggested he'd seen everything twice and been disappointed both times, barely glanced at her before leading her through dim corridors lined with private booths where conversations died the moment she passed. She'd worn the only dress she owned that didn't look like it came from a clearance rack. Navy blue, simple, ironed 3 times that afternoon until her arm ached and the fabric finally lay flat enough to pass for expensive. Her shoes were last season's discount bin specials, but she'd polished them until they shined under the restaurant's low amber lighting. The host stopped beside a corner table set beneath a massive abstract painting that looked like violence frozen mid-motion. "Your party will arrive shortly," he said, his tone making it clear he didn't believe that for a second. Serena sat. The chair was more comfortable than anything in her apartment. The menu had no prices. The wine list was thicker than her college textbooks, and when a server appeared to pour water into crystal glasses she didn't dare touch, Serena felt the full weight of how deeply she didn't belong here. She checked her phone. "On my way. Traffic's hell. Order something if you want." Marcus Chen. 32, investment consultant, owned a dog named Biscuit, enjoyed hiking and trying new restaurants. They'd matched 3 weeks ago on an app Serena had downloaded during a lonely Sunday afternoon when her bank account showed double digits and her landlord's eviction notice sat unopened on her kitchen counter. Their messages had been easy, light. Marcus seemed normal, funny without trying too hard, curious without being invasive, the kind of person who asked real questions instead of just waiting for his turn to talk. When he'd suggested Maison Noire for their first date, Serena had Googled the place and nearly canceled immediately. But Marcus had insisted. "Trust me," he'd texted. "You'll love it. Plus, I have a connection there. We'll get the good table." Serena had agreed because desperation makes people do stupid things, and she was desperate in ways that went deeper than money. 28 years old, $73,000 in medical debt from her mother's cancer treatments, working 2 jobs that barely covered rent, and so profoundly lonely she sometimes forgot what her own voice sounded like. So she'd ironed her clearance dress and polished her discount shoes and told herself that maybe, just maybe, something good could happen to someone like her. 20 minutes passed. The server returned, refilled her water, asked if she'd like to order. Serena smiled and said she was waiting for someone. The server's expression suggested he'd heard that line before from women who ended up eating alone. Serena checked her phone again. No new messages. She typed, "Hey, you close? I'm here." The message showed as delivered but not read. 30 minutes. The restaurant filled around her, men in tailored suits, women wearing jewelry that cost more than Serena's annual salary, conversations conducted in low tones about mergers and acquisitions, and people whose names appeared in financial newspapers. Everyone belonged except her. Serena's chest tightened. Heat crawled up her neck. She could feel eyes on her, the kind of looks people give someone who's clearly out of place, someone who made a mistake just by showing up. She was reaching for her purse, ready to leave and let humiliation swallow her whole, when the restaurant changed. It happened suddenly. A shift in air pressure, conversations cutting off mid-sentence. Every head turning toward the private entrance at the back of the dining room where a door Serena hadn't noticed before swung open. 4 men entered first. Not waiters, not guests. Security. They moved like soldiers, efficient, silent, scanning the room with eyes that cataloged threats faster than Serena could blink. Then came 2 more men in dark suits flanking the corridor, and finally, walking between them like a king moving through conquered territory, came Adrian Dragunov. Serena knew who he was. Everyone did. Not because he sought attention. Adrian Dragunov never gave interviews, never appeared at charity galas, never smiled for cameras. He was known the way earthquakes were known, the way floods were known. A force that shaped the city from behind closed doors, whispered about in financial circles and criminal underworlds with equal parts fear and reverence. Tall? Maybe 6'3". Immaculate charcoal suit that fit like it had been built around him. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been handsome if it weren't so utterly cold. He moved with the kind of stillness that suggested violence was always an option, just never necessary. The entire restaurant held its breath. Adrian's security swept the room once more, then took positions near the exits. Adrian himself walked toward the corner table, Serena's table, with footsteps that made no sound but somehow echoed anyway. That's when Serena realized the good table Marcus had promised, the connection he'd mentioned, this table, Adrian Dragunov's table. Panic flooded her bloodstream. Serena grabbed her purse, started to stand, but Adrian was already there, looking down at her with eyes the color of winter seas, cold, deep, unreadable. "You're in my seat," he said. His voice was quiet, controlled. The kind of voice that didn't need to rise because people listened the first time or faced consequences. "I'm sorry," Serena stammered. "I didn't know. My date," he said. "What date?" It wasn't a question. Adrian glanced at the empty chair across from her, then back at Serena with an expression that suggested he'd already solved a puzzle she didn't know existed. "Marcus Chen," Serena said. Her voice sounded thin, small. "We were supposed to meet here. He made the reservation." Something shifted in Adrian's face. Not quite emotion, more like recognition. He pulled out his phone, a sleek black device that probably cost more than Serena's car, and typed something with quick, precise movements. Seconds later, one of his security men approached, leaned in, whispered something Serena couldn't hear. Adrian's jaw tightened. When he looked at Serena again, his eyes had changed. Still cold, but now there was something else underneath, something that might have been anger, or might have been concern, or might have been something Serena had no framework to understand. "How did you meet him?" Adrian asked. "Dating app, 3 weeks ago. Why? What's wrong?" Adrian ignored the question. "Show me his profile." It wasn't a request. Serena's hands shook as she unlocked her phone and navigated to the app. Marcus's profile was still there, smiling photo, carefully curated details, messages that had seemed so normal just hours ago. Adrian took her phone without asking permission, studied the screen for exactly 5 seconds. Then he handed it to his security man and spoke a single word. "Trace." The man disappeared. Adrian pulled out the chair across from Serena and sat down like he owned the entire building, which he probably did. "Your date isn't coming," he said. Serena's throat went dry. "What do you mean?" "Marcus Chen doesn't exist. The profile is fake. The photos are stolen from a travel blogger in Singapore. The phone number routes through a burner purchased yesterday in Queens." The world tilted sideways. "That's not possible," Serena whispered. "We've been talking for weeks. He knew things about me, personal things. Information you volunteered during your conversations. He was mapping you, learning your vulnerabilities, building trust. For what?" Adrian's expression didn't change, but his next words landed like a fist. "To sell you." The noise of the restaurant faded into static. Serena couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Everything inside her went numb except for the small animal part of her brain that understood she'd just brushed against something so dark it didn't have a name. "There's a trafficking network operating in the city," Adrian continued, his voice clinical now, detached. "They use dating apps to target vulnerable women, isolated, in debt. No strong family connections. They build relationships online, arrange meetings at locations with controllable exits, And once the woman arrives, she disappears. The restaurants are always complicit. The staff is paid to look away. Serena gripped the edge of the table. Her knuckles went white. This restaurant? She asked. No. Adrian's eyes bored into hers. Maison Noire is mine, which is why your date chose it. He was sending a message. To who? To me. The fear crystallized into something sharper. I don't understand. Adrian leaned back in his chair, and for the first time, Serena saw the full scope of what she was dealing with. Not just a powerful man, not just someone dangerous, something else entirely. The network that was targeting you belongs to a rival organization, Adrian said. They've been encroaching on territory I control for months. This was supposed to be a demonstration. They were going to take you from my restaurant, from my reserved table, as proof they could operate in my city without consequence. But I'm nobody, Serena said. Why would they? You're exactly the kind of person they prey on. Alone, desperate, easy to erase. Adrian paused. But you sat in my chair, which changes everything. Serena's mind raced. None of this made sense. She just wanted a normal date with a normal person. Instead, she'd stumbled into something out of a nightmare. What happens now? She asked. Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, read something, and his expression went blank. The kind of blank that meant someone somewhere had just made a fatal mistake. He stood. Come with me. What? No, I don't even know you. You know enough. Adrian gestured toward the restaurant's entrance where 2 more security men had appeared. Marcus Chen was intercepted 17 minutes ago, 6 blocks from here. He's being questioned now. When we're finished, he'll lead us to the rest of his network. Horror crawled up Serena's spine. Questioned how? However necessary. The words carried no emotion, no hesitation, just cold fact. Serena should have run, should have called the police, should have done anything except what she did next. But something in Adrian's eyes stopped her. Not kindness, not warmth, something harder and infinitely more valuable. Certainty. The absolute knowledge that he was telling the truth, that the man she'd trusted had been leading her towards something unspeakable, and that the terrifying stranger standing before her had just saved her life without asking for permission. If I leave now, Serena said slowly, am I safe? No. The answer came instantly. They know your face, Adrian continued. They know where you live, where you work, every detail you shared with your fake boyfriend over 3 weeks of conversation. They'll try again. Different approach, different bait, and next time I won't be here to stop them. So what are you saying? Adrian extended his hand across the table, palm up, waiting. I'm saying you sat at my table. In my world, that means something. It means you're under my protection now, whether you want it or not. You can walk out that door and take your chances, or you can come with me and let me fix this properly. Serena stared at his hand. Strong, scarred along the knuckles. The hand of someone who'd built an empire through methods she didn't want to imagine. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse, to run, to get as far from Adrian Dragunov as possible. But her instincts had led her here, had made her trust Marcus, had nearly gotten her sold to monsters. So maybe her instincts were broken. Maybe the only way to survive was to stop trusting the voice in her head and start trusting the evidence in front of her, that this cold, dangerous man had seen through Marcus's lies in seconds, had mobilized an entire security operation without breaking stride, and was now offering her protection when he could have just as easily ignored her existence. Serena took his hand. Adrian's grip was firm, warm, absolute. He pulled her to her feet like she weighed nothing, and suddenly Serena was standing close enough to smell his cologne, something dark and expensive, and see the faint scar along his jawline that no amount of money could erase. Good, Adrian said. Let's go. He didn't release her hand. Serena let him lead her through the restaurant while every pair of eyes tracked their movement, out through the private corridor, past security men who fell into formation around them like pieces of armor, into the cold night air where rain had started falling in earnest, and a black SUV idled at the curb with its engine purring like a predator. Adrian opened the rear door himself. Get in. Serena hesitated. This was the moment, the final chance to turn back. Where are we going? She asked. Somewhere safe. That's not an answer. Adrian's expression shifted. Not quite a smile, but something close. The first crack in his armor. No, he agreed. It's not. Then he waited, not forcing, not demanding, just waiting for Serena to make the choice that would determine the rest of her life. She climbed into the SUV. Adrian slid in beside her. The door closed with a heavy, final sound. The vehicle pulled away from Maison Noire and merged into city traffic, while rain streaked the windows and turned the streetlights into blurred halos. Serena sat rigid in the leather seat, hyper-aware of Adrian's presence beside her. The heat of him, the controlled stillness, the sense that violence lived just beneath his skin waiting for permission. "What happens to Marcus?" she asked quietly. "He'll tell us who he works for, then he'll disappear." Disappear how? Adrian turned to look at her, and Serena saw her reflection in those winter eyes. "However I decide," he said. "Does that bother you?" It should have. Serena knew it should have terrified her, but sitting there in the dark with rain drumming overhead and her entire world crumbling, all she felt was a strange, horrible sense of relief. Someone else was handling it. Someone else was taking control. Someone else gave a damn whether she lived or died. "I don't know what I feel," Serena admitted. "That's honest." Adrian's gaze held hers. "Most people lie to themselves first. You're smarter than that." "I'm not smart. If I were smart, I wouldn't have trusted a fake profile. Wouldn't have gone to that restaurant. Wouldn't be in this car with you." "You'd be dead," Adrian said bluntly. "Or worse. So maybe your definition of smart needs updating." The SUV turned onto a highway, accelerating into the rain-soaked night. Serena watched the city blur past and tried to process what had happened in the last 40 minutes. She'd gone from a failed blind date to a hostage situation. Except she wasn't a hostage. Was she? "Can I ask you something?" Serena said. "Yes." "Why do you care? You don't know me. I'm nobody to you. You could have just kicked me out of your restaurant and forgotten I existed." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried something Serena hadn't heard before. Something that might have been memory or might have been pain. "When I was 12, he said, "I watched my mother disappear. She went to meet someone she'd been talking to online, someone who promised to help her escape my father. Instead, she vanished for 3 weeks. When she came back, she was broken in ways that never healed." Serena's breath caught. "The man who took her was never punished," Adrian continued. "The police didn't care. My father didn't care. Nobody cared because my mother was just another desperate woman who made a stupid mistake. So I learned that if you want justice in this world, you take it yourself. And Marcus will receive exactly the justice he deserves." The certainty in those words made Serena's skin prickle. She didn't ask for details, didn't want them. Instead, she asked, "Where are we going?" "My home. Is that safe?" Adrian's expression shifted into something that might have been amusement if it weren't so cold. "Serena," he said, "I own half this city and control the other half. The only place safer than my home is a location that doesn't exist. You'll stay there until I've dismantled the network that targeted you. After that, you're free to leave whenever you want." Just like that? Just like that. Serena wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this was rescue and not something wearing rescue's face. But when Adrian's phone buzzed again and he read the message with an expression that went from cold to Arctic, Serena realized she didn't have a choice anymore. She'd sat at the wrong table, made the wrong choice, trusted the wrong man. And now the only person standing between her and oblivion was a monster in an expensive suit who looked at her like she was something worth protecting. Not because she mattered, but because she'd accidentally become his responsibility. The SUV pulled off the highway and into a private underground garage, where armed men in tactical gear waited beside concrete pillars. The vehicle stopped in front of a private elevator with no buttons, no floor indicators, just a biometric scanner that activated when Adrian pressed his palm against it. "Let's go," he said. Serena followed him into the elevator. The doors closed. The world fell away. And as they rose toward whatever waited above, Serena realized she was shaking, not from fear, though fear was definitely there, but from something else entirely. The knowledge that her old life was over, that whatever came next would be shaped by this moment, this choice, this terrifying man who'd saved her for reasons she didn't understand. The elevator opened onto a penthouse that looked like it had been carved from marble and glass, and money that forgot how to count. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that cost more than Serena's student loans, art on the walls that belonged in museums. Adrian walked through it like it was nothing. "You'll stay in the guest wing," he said. "Anything you need, ask Victor. He'll get it." A massive man materialized from somewhere. Shaved head, scarred knuckles, expression that suggested he'd killed people and slept just fine afterward. "Victor, this is Serena. She's under my protection. Make sure she has everything." Victor nodded once. "Yes, sir." Then Adrian turned to Serena, and for a moment she saw something flicker across his face, something almost human. "Get some rest," he said. "Tomorrow we'll talk about what happens next." He started to walk away. "Adrian," Serena called. He stopped, turned back. "Thank you," Serena said, "for saving me." Adrian looked at her with those winter eyes, and when he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made Serena's heart hammer against her ribs. "Don't thank me yet," he said. "You don't know what I've just made you part of." Then he disappeared down a hallway, leaving Serena alone with Victor, and the terrible understanding that she'd just traded one trap for another. Except this trap had windows overlooking the entire city, and the man holding the key looked at her like she was something worth keeping. Victor cleared his throat. "This way, Miss Vale." Serena followed him through the penthouse, past rooms she didn't look at, toward a guest suite that was larger than her entire apartment. Victor opened the door, gestured inside. Clothes in the closet should fit. Bathrooms stocked. Kitchens down the hall if you're hungry. Security's stationed outside. You need anything, press the intercom. "What if I want to leave?" Serena asked. Victor's expression didn't change. "Then you wait until Mr. Dragunov says it's safe. That's how protection works." He closed the door. Serena stood alone in a bedroom that cost more per square foot than most people earned in a year, listening to her heartbeat and trying to understand what had just happened. She'd gone on a blind date, nearly been trafficked, been saved by a crime lord, and was now locked in a gilded cage at the top of the city with no idea if she was a guest or a prisoner or something in between. Serena walked to the window, pressed her hand against the glass, looked down at the city sprawling below like a living thing. Millions of lights, millions of lives, all of them unaware that one woman's entire existence had just been rewritten in the space of a single night. Her phone buzzed. Serena looked down at the screen. A new message. "Unknown number. Sleep well, Serena. Tomorrow you'll understand what it means to be mine." The phone slipped from her hand, hit the floor with a crack that spiderwebbed the screen, and standing there in the dark with rain hammering against bulletproof windows and a stranger's message burning behind her eyes, Serena finally understood. She wasn't safe. She was claimed. Serena didn't sleep. She lay on top of the covers in the guest suite, fully clothed, staring at the ceiling while her mind replayed the night in fragments. Marcus's fake smile, Adrian's cold eyes, the message still burning on her cracked phone screen. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw different versions of what could have happened if Adrian hadn't been there. Marcus leading her out through a back exit, a van with blacked-out windows, zip ties cutting into her wrists while strange hands shoved her into darkness. She opened her eyes. The ceiling was coffered, painted in shades of cream and gold that probably had Italian names, the kind of detail that cost more than Serena earned in 6 months. Everything in this room screamed wealth so obscene it forgot to be tasteful. And somewhere in this penthouse fortress, Adrian Dragunov was awake too. Serena could feel it somehow, the way you feel a storm gathering even when the sky looks clear. Around 4 in the morning, she gave up on sleep entirely, climbed out of bed and walked to the closet Victor had mentioned. Inside hung clothes with designer labels still attached. Dresses, blouses, pants, all in her exact size. Serena touched a silk shirt and jerked her hand back like it had burned her. He'd known. Before bringing her here, Adrian had known her measurements, her style, everything, which meant he'd been watching longer than just tonight. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it made something dark and complicated twist in her chest. Serena changed into running pants and a plain black shirt from the closet, then crept out of the guest suite into the hallway. The penthouse was silent except for the ambient hum of expensive climate control. Dim floor lighting guided her path toward what looked like a kitchen. She found it through an archway. All marble countertops and commercial-grade appliances that gleamed like surgical instruments. Serena opened the refrigerator, found it stocked with fresh food, organized by type and date, and grabbed a bottle of water she couldn't bring herself to drink. Can't sleep? Serena spun around so fast she nearly dropped the bottle. Adrian stood in the kitchen entrance wearing dark pants and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. No jacket, no tie. Hair slightly disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked dangerously human. "You scared me," Serena said. "I know. You stopped breathing." He crossed to the kitchen island and leaned against it, studying her with those winter eyes that missed nothing. In the low light, Serena could see faint shadows under them. The man didn't sleep either. "How long have you been watching me?" Serena asked. Adrian tilted his head slightly. "Since you walked into Maison Noire." "Before that." It wasn't a question. Adrian's expression didn't change. 2 weeks, since your dating app profile was flagged by our monitoring systems as a potential target." The water bottle crumpled in Serena's grip. "You've been spying on me for 2 weeks?" "Protecting you. Without asking, without telling me. Would you have believed me?" Adrian's voice stayed level, controlled. "If I'd approached you 2 weeks ago and said a stranger online was planning to traffic you, would you have listened, or would you have thought I was insane?" Serena wanted to argue, couldn't. "The clothes," she said instead. "The ones in the closet. You had them ready." "Yes. You knew I'd end up here. I considered it likely." Rage flared hot in Serena's chest. "You manipulated this entire situation. You let me walk into that restaurant knowing what would happen." "I let you walk into the safest place in the city," Adrian interrupted, his tone sharpening, "where my security could intervene the moment Marcus made his move. If I'd stopped you earlier, his network would have just selected another target, another woman who wouldn't have my protection. This way, we caught him and you survived. Everyone wins except the predators. I'm not a chess piece." "No." Adrian pushed off the island and took a step toward her. "You're a woman who almost disappeared forever because she was lonely and desperate and wanted to believe someone decent existed in this world. I didn't create that vulnerability, Serena. I just recognized it before someone worse did." The words landed like fists, true and brutal and impossible to deflect. Serena's hands shook. "I want to go home." "Your apartment was cleared out 3 hours ago." The kitchen tilted sideways. "What?" "Marcus had your address, your keys, your schedule. His network was planning to grab you from your apartment if the restaurant failed. So I had your belongings moved to a secure storage facility and placed armed security in your building with instructions to report anyone asking about you." "You can't just—" Serena's voice cracked. "That's my life, my home." "Was your home," Adrian corrected. "Now it's a location they're watching. You go back there, you're dead within 48 hours. Maybe less if they're impatient." Serena gripped the edge of the counter. Her breathing came too fast, too shallow. The walls pressed in. Adrian moved closer, not touching, just there, solid and immovable, and somehow grounding. "Breathe," he said quietly. "In through your nose, out through your mouth. Focus on something real." "This isn't real. None of this is real. The marble under your hands is real. The water bottle you're crushing is real. I'm real. Focus on that." Serena forced air into her lungs. Once, twice. The panic receded enough for her to think again, and when she looked up, Adrian was watching her with an expression she couldn't decode. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "I told you." "No, the real reason. Not the story about your mother, the actual truth." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried something raw underneath the control. "Because when I saw you sitting at my table wearing a dress you'd ironed 3 times, looking like you were trying so hard to be someone you're not, I recognized that expression. I wore it for years before I learned to bury it. You were trying to survive by making yourself smaller, quieter, more acceptable. And I knew exactly what kind of people prey on that." Serena's throat tightened. "So this is pity. This is protection. There's a difference. What happens after, when the threat's gone? You leave. Resume your life. Forget any of this happened." "Just like that?" Adrian's jaw tensed. Just like that. He was lying. Serena could hear it in the slight shift of his tone, see it in the way his shoulders tightened. But she didn't call him on it because part of her didn't want to know the truth yet. Instead, she asked, "What happened to Marcus?" "He's being questioned." By who? People who specialize in extracting information from people who don't want to share. The clinical phrasing made Serena's stomach turn. You're torturing him. I'm protecting you. The methods are irrelevant. They're not irrelevant to me. Adrian studied her face for several seconds. Then he pulled out his phone, typed something, and turned the screen towards Serena. She looked. Immediately wished she hadn't. The photo showed a warehouse interior, concrete floor stained dark, a metal chair bolted to the ground. Marcus, or what remained of him, was zip-tied to that chair with his head hanging forward and blood dripping from wounds Serena couldn't fully process. Two men in black tactical gear stood on either side holding equipment that looked medical and violent at the same time. Serena's hand flew to her mouth. Adrian pulled the phone back. Marcus Chen is his fourth identity in 2 years. Before that, he was David Park. Before that, Michael Torres. He's been trafficking women since he was 19. We've connected him to 17 disappearances across 3 states. The youngest victim was 16. So when I said he deserves what's happening to him, I meant it. The kitchen spun. Serena grabbed the counter harder. Did you need to show me that? She asked. Yes. Because you need to understand what kind of world you almost entered. These aren't desperate criminals making bad choices. They're predators who've industrialized human suffering. They don't deserve mercy, Serena. They deserve exactly what they inflict on others. And you get to decide that? Someone has to. The certainty in his voice was absolute, terrifying, and somehow, in a way Serena hated herself for thinking, reassuring. I need air, she said. Adrian gestured toward a hallway. Terrace is through there. Security will follow you. Don't fight them. Serena walked past him, hyper-aware of the space between their bodies, the heat radiating off him, the controlled violence living just beneath his skin. She found the terrace through French doors that opened with a soft click. Cold air hit her face like a slap. The terrace wrapped around the entire penthouse, offering 360-degree views of the city below. Rain had stopped but left everything wet and gleaming. Streetlights reflected off puddles. Distant sirens wailed like the city crying out in its sleep. Serena gripped the railing and breathed. Behind her, she heard the doors open again. Adrian's footsteps. Then silence as he stood a few feet away, giving her space but not leaving. I had a plan, Serena said quietly. Pay off my debts. Go back to school. Maybe become a teacher, something normal, something that didn't involve men like Marcus, or men like you. Plans change. Not like this. Not in one night. The world doesn't care about your timeline. Serena turned to face him. Adrian stood with his hands in his pockets, shirt collar open, looking like some fallen angel cast out of wherever angels came from and forced to run an empire in hell. What do you want from me? Serena asked. Nothing you're not willing to give. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Frustration boiled over. Stop talking in riddles. Tell me what happens now. Do I stay here forever? Do you expect something in return for protection? Do I owe you? Adrian's expression hardened. You owe me nothing. I don't collect debts from victims. Then what am I? Under my protection. Which means what exactly? Adrian closed the distance between them in 2 strides. Suddenly, he was right there, close enough that Serena could see the flecks of gray in his blue eyes, smell the faint scent of his cologne mixed with something darker. Gunpowder, maybe, or violence, or just the particular chemistry of someone who'd killed enough people to forget counting. It means, Adrian said, voice low and controlled, that anyone who tries to harm you will face me first. It means you have access to resources most people can't imagine. It means you're safe as long as I'm breathing. And it means that somewhere in this city, right now, men who plan to sell you are being hunted down and erased from existence. That's what protection means in my world. Serena's heart hammered. And when you're done hunting them, I move on to the next threat. There's always a next threat. Yes. So I'm never safe. Adrian's jaw tightened. Not as long as you exist in a world where men like Marcus thrive. But with me, you're safer than you've ever been in your life. That's not arrogance. It's fact. The certainty in his voice made something inside Serena crack. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the terror still coursing through her veins. Maybe it was the realization that Adrian was right. She'd been living on the edge of oblivion for years without realizing it, and the only reason she wasn't already gone was blind luck and this terrifying man's intervention. "I don't know how to do this," Serena whispered. "Do what?" "Be someone's responsibility." Adrian's expression shifted, softened, just slightly, just enough for Serena to see the human underneath the armor. "You're not my responsibility," he said quietly. "You're my choice. There's a difference." Before Serena could respond, Adrian's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, read the message, and his entire demeanor changed. The softness vanished. The armor snapped back into place. His eyes went cold again. "What?" Serena asked. "Marcus gave up his handler. We have a location." "Now?" "Yes." Adrian was already moving toward the doors. "Stay here. Victor will keep you secure." "Wait." Serena grabbed his arm without thinking. Adrian stopped, looked down at her hand on his sleeve, then at her face. "What happens to them?" Serena asked. "The people you're going to hunt?" "They stop existing." "You're going to kill them?" "Yes." No hesitation, no justification, just cold fact. Serena should have been horrified, should have pulled away, should have demanded he call the police instead. But standing there in the pre-dawn darkness, with Adrian's warmth under her palm and his eyes promising violence, all Serena felt was a sick, twisted sense of justice. "Be careful," she heard herself say. Adrian's expression flickered. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. "I'm always careful," he said. Then he gently removed her hand from his arm and disappeared into the penthouse. Serena stood alone on the terrace, listening to the city wake up, while somewhere below, Adrian Dragunov prepared to commit murder on her behalf. And the worst part, the part that made her stomach clench and her hands shake and her breath come short, was that she didn't want to stop him. Tickets. 3 hours later, Serena was drowning in coffee and pacing the guest suite when Victor knocked. "Mr. Dragunov wants to see you." Serena's heart kicked against her ribs. "Is he back?" "Yes." "Is he—" She stopped. Wasn't sure how to finish. Hurt? Alive? Covered in blood? Victor's expression gave nothing away. "He's in his office. This way." Serena followed him through the penthouse's labyrinth corridors, past artwork worth more than small countries, toward double doors made of dark wood that looked like they could stop bullets. Victor knocked once. "Come." Adrian's voice, muffled but unmistakable. Victor opened the door and gestured Serena inside. Adrian's office was exactly what she expected. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, massive desk made from a single slab of black marble, windows overlooking the city, with bulletproof glass so clear it looked like nothing separated you from a 300-foot drop. Adrian sat behind the desk, wearing the same clothes from earlier, except now the white shirt had dark stains near the cuffs. His hands were clean, but the knuckles were red, abraded. He'd washed blood off before seeing her. "Sit," Adrian said. Serena sat in one of the leather chairs across from him. The office smelled like expensive paper and something metallic underneath. Adrian studied her for a moment. "How are you holding up?" "I don't know. You tell me." "You're not crying, not shaking, breathing normally. Either you're in shock or you're tougher than you think." "Maybe both." Adrian nodded. "The network that targeted you is being dismantled as we speak. Marcus's handler led us to a warehouse operation in Queens. 12 women were being held there. We extracted them and turned the location into an example." "Example for who?" "Anyone else considering operating in my territory." Serena's hands gripped the armrests. "What happened to the women?" "Medical treatment, new identities, placement in secure facilities where they can rebuild, anonymous deposits in accounts under their new names. They'll never see their captors again because their captors are dead." The casual way he said it made Serena's skin prickle. "How many people did you kill tonight?" she asked. Adrian leaned back in his chair. "Do you actually want to know?" "Yes." 8. 3 at the warehouse. 5 at a secondary location Marcus's handler revealed under questioning. The 9th, Marcus himself, will die before noon once he's given us everything he knows. Serena swallowed hard. "Just like that? Just like that? And you feel nothing?" Adrian's expression darkened. "I feel satisfaction. These men built an empire trafficking vulnerable women. They destroyed lives for profit. They deserved worse than quick deaths, but I don't have time for prolonged justice. So yes, I feel something. I feel glad they're gone. The honesty was brutal, unfiltered. Most people would have dressed it up, made it sound noble. Adrian didn't bother. What about the police? Serena asked. We'll find 12 missing women returned safely and a warehouse full of evidence pointing toward a criminal network that conveniently killed each other in a territorial dispute. The story writes itself. You control the police too? I control enough of them. Serena's head spun. She was sitting across from a man who just orchestrated mass murder, evidence tampering, and witness manipulation before breakfast. And he was talking about it like someone discussing quarterly earnings. Why are you telling me this? Serena asked. Because you asked. And because you need to understand what protection looks like in the real world. It's not restraining orders or police reports or hope. It's elimination of threats before they materialize. Permanent solutions to permanent problems. That's not justice. No, it's survival. Justice is a luxury for people who aren't being hunted. Adrian stood and walked to the windows. From behind, Serena could see the tension in his shoulders. The controlled stillness that suggested violence was still simmering under his skin. The threat's gone, he said without turning. You're safe now. Victor will arrange transportation back to your apartment this afternoon. Your belongings will be returned. Security will watch your building for another 2 weeks, then pull back. After that, you resume your normal life. Serena stood. Just like that? Just like that. And we never see each other again? Adrian was quiet. When he finally turned, his expression was carefully blank. That would be safest. For both of us. Something in Serena's chest twisted. Why? Because women who stay in my life end up destroyed. It's a pattern I've learned not to ignore. Your mother, died when I was 15, Adrian interrupted. 3 years after she was trafficked. The trauma broke something inside her that never healed. She drank herself to death while my father watched and did nothing. So I learned early that proximity to me is dangerous. I've built an empire, Serena, but I've never built a relationship that didn't collapse under the weight of what I am. The raw honesty in his voice made Serena's throat tight. What if I don't want to leave? She heard herself ask. Adrian's eyes snapped to hers. You don't know what you're saying. I'm saying I've spent 28 years being invisible, being forgettable, being someone men like Marcus target because I seem weak, and then you looked at me like I mattered, like I was worth protecting. Do you have any idea how that feels? Serena, no one has ever fought for me. Her voice shook. My mother died asking me to be strong. My father left before I could remember him. Every relationship I've tried ended with me being too much or not enough. And then you... She stopped, breathed. You killed 8 people tonight, for me, because I sat at your table. And I know that's insane. I know I should be terrified, but all I feel is, don't, Adrian said sharply. Don't what? Don't confuse protection with affection. Don't mistake violence for devotion. I'm not a good man, Serena. I'm a monster who occasionally does decent things when it serves my interests. Anything beyond that is fantasy. Is it fantasy that you knew my clothing size before meeting me? That you had a guest suite prepared? That you've been watching me for 2 weeks? Adrian's jaw clenched. That's surveillance, not romance. Then why are your hands shaking? Adrian looked down. His hands, usually perfectly controlled, were trembling slightly. He curled them into fists. Because I'm exhausted, he said. I've been awake for 36 hours executing operations across 3 states. Don't read meaning into physiology. Serena crossed the space between them. Adrian didn't move, didn't step back, just watched her approach with eyes that looked hunted. Tell me I'm wrong, Serena said quietly. Tell me you feel nothing. Tell me this is just business. Tell me to leave and mean it. Adrian's breathing changed, shallow, controlled, like he was restraining something bigger than himself. You should leave, he said. That's not what I asked. Serena, tell me you don't feel it too. The space between them crackled with something electric and dangerous. Adrian's control was fracturing. Serena could see it in the tension along his jaw, the pulse hammering in his throat, the way his hands uncurled and curled again like he didn't know what to do with them. This is a mistake, Adrian said, his voice rough. Then make it. Something broke. Adrian moved so fast Serena barely processed it. One moment they were standing apart. The next his hands were cupping her face, and his mouth was on hers, and everything inside Serena ignited. The kiss was nothing like she expected. Not gentle, not controlled, raw and desperate, and tasting like violence and coffee, and something darker underneath. Adrian kissed her like a drowning man finally breaking surface, like he'd been holding back for weeks and couldn't anymore, like she was oxygen and he'd been suffocating. Serena kissed him back just as hard, her hands fisted in his shirt, his fingers tangled in her hair. The world narrowed to just this: heat and pressure, and the taste of him overwhelming everything else. Then Adrian jerked back. He released her like she'd burned him and stepped away so fast he nearly hit the desk. "No," he said, breathing hard. "No, this doesn't happen." Serena's lips still tingled. "It already did. It was a mistake." "Then why are you looking at me like that?" Adrian dragged a hand through his hair. "Because I'm trying very hard not to make it worse." "Worse how?" "Worse like keeping you here. Worse like telling Victor to lock down the penthouse. Worse like doing exactly what I've spent 15 years teaching myself not to do with people I—" He stopped, swallowed. "With people who don't belong in my world. What if I want to belong?" "You don't know what you're asking for." "Then show me." Adrian laughed. It sounded broken. "You want me to show you? Fine, come here." He pulled out his phone, typed something, and turned the screen toward her. Serena looked. Security footage. A residential street. A woman walking toward a brownstone with groceries. Then a black van pulling up. Doors opening. Men with masks dragging the woman inside while she screamed. "Natalia Volkov," Adrian said flatly. "She was my girlfriend for 6 months 3 years ago. I thought I could keep her safe, thought my reputation was enough. It wasn't. My enemies took her to prove they could. They returned her 2 weeks later, missing 3 fingers and barely able to speak. She's in a psychiatric facility in Switzerland now. Hasn't said a coherent word since." Horror flooded Serena's veins. "Before her was Elena Chen," Adrian continued, scrolling to another photo. "Lasted 4 months before a bomb meant for me killed her instead. Before that was Sofia Petrov. Car accident that wasn't an accident. The pattern is clear, Serena. People I care about become targets. They get hurt or killed or destroyed. I've learned to accept that I don't get to keep anyone." He put the phone away. "So when you asked me to show you what belonging looks like," Adrian said, his voice cold again, armored again, "that's what I'm showing you. Pain, loss, trauma. A future where you wake up every day wondering if today's the day my enemies decide you're the easiest way to hurt me. That's the reality. Not romance, not protection, just endless danger disguised as devotion." Serena felt tears building but refused to let them fall. "And you've decided that for me? Without asking what I want? What you want doesn't matter when you don't understand the cost." "I understand perfectly. You're scared." Adrian's expression turned dangerous. "Excuse me?" "You're terrified. Not of your enemies, of caring about someone and losing them. So you push people away first and call it protection when really it's just cowardice dressed up as nobility." The words hung in the air like smoke. Adrian's hands clenched into fists. "Get out." "No." "Serena, leave. Now. Make me." The challenge hung between them. Adrian stared at her with eyes that promised violence, but underneath Serena saw something else. Desperation. Loneliness. The same hollow ache she'd been carrying her entire life. "You don't want me to leave," Serena said quietly. "You want me to stay and prove you wrong. Prove that someone can survive proximity to you, but you're too scared to ask." "I've killed 8 people in the last 6 hours," Adrian said through gritted teeth. "I will kill more before sunset. I am exactly the monster you should be running from. So why are you still standing here?" "Because I've been running my whole life from debt, from loneliness, from men who saw me as disposable. And I'm tired, Adrian. I'm so tired of being afraid. At least with you, the danger is honest. At least with you, I know someone gives enough of a damn to fight back." Adrian's control wavered. Serena could see it cracking. "Please leave," he said. And this time his voice held something that might have been pain. "Before I do something we both regret." "Like what? Admit you care? Admit you've been watching me for weeks because you saw something worth protecting? Admit that kiss meant something?" It meant nothing. Liar. Adrian moved fast, crossed the space between them, and backed Serena against the bookshelves with his hands bracketed on either side of her head. His body heat surrounded her. His face was inches away, expression twisted between fury and something far more dangerous. You want the truth? Adrian's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Fine. I've wanted you since the moment you sat down at my table, looking lost and beautiful and completely unaware that you'd just walked into a trap. I've thought about you every night for 2 weeks. Imagined what it would be like to keep you, to wake up next to someone who doesn't flinch when I walk into a room, to have something in my life that isn't built on fear and violence and blood money. Serena's breath caught. But wanting something doesn't mean I get to keep it, Adrian continued. I learned that lesson watching my mother die, watching every woman I've cared about get destroyed. The universe doesn't care about my wants, Serena. It just keeps taking, so I've learned to let go before it hurts more. What if I don't want you to let go? Then you're asking me to be selfish, to risk your life for my comfort, and I won't do that. Serena reached up and placed her hand against Adrian's chest. His heart hammered beneath her palm, fast, erratic, human. I'm not asking you to be selfish, she said. I'm asking you to let me make my own choices. And I choose this. I choose you, knowing everything, knowing the danger, knowing what happened to the others. I still choose you. Adrian's eyes closed. You're going to regret it. Maybe. But it'll be my regret, not yours. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Serena could feel the war happening inside Adrian. Control fighting desire, logic battling emotion, the monster wrestling with the man. Then his eyes opened. If you stay, Adrian said slowly, there are rules, non-negotiable. Tell me, you go nowhere without security. You don't leave this building without my permission. You cut contact with anyone from your old life who might be vulnerable. You learn to shoot, to fight, to survive. And most importantly, his hand came up to cup her jaw. You tell me the moment you want out. No questions, no arguments. One word, and Victor will have you on a plane to anywhere you want to go with enough money to disappear forever. Serena's heart pounded. That's not rules. That's a cage. It's the only way I can live with this decision. And if I refuse, then I put you in a car right now, and you never see me again. The ultimatum settled between them. Serena understood what Adrian was offering, not freedom, not romance, a transaction, protection in exchange for surrender. Every rational part of her brain screamed to refuse, to walk out, to save herself before it was too late. But Serena was tired of listening to the rational parts. Okay, she whispered. Adrian's expression shifted. Surprise, then something darker. Possession. Say it clearly. I'll stay, under your rules, in your world, as long as you promise to be honest with me. No more surveillance without telling me. No more decisions made for my own good. If I'm choosing this, I get full transparency. Adrian studied her face. Deal. Then he kissed her again. This time wasn't desperate. This time was claiming. His mouth moved over hers with absolute certainty, one hand tangling in her hair while the other gripped her waist hard enough to leave marks. Serena melted into him, tasting danger and desire, and the terrible understanding that she'd just signed away her freedom to a man who collected broken things and kept them in gilded cages. When Adrian finally pulled back, his eyes were dark with want. Victor will move your things to the master's suite, he said. The master? If you're staying with me, not hidden away in the guest wing like something I'm ashamed of. Serena's pulse hammered. Adrian, those are my terms. Take them or leave. She should leave, should recognize the obsession blooming in his eyes for what it was. Instead, Serena heard herself say, I'll take them. Adrian's smile was sharp, dangerous, victorious. Good. Now get some rest. Tonight, we're attending a business dinner where I'm introducing you to the people who run this city. I want them to know exactly who you are. And who am I? Adrian pulled her close, mouth brushing her ear. Mine. The word sent shivers down Serena's spine. She'd traded one trap for another. Marcus's van for Adrian's penthouse. Anonymous oblivion for public ownership. But standing there in Adrian's arms with his heartbeat thundering against hers and his promises of protection wrapped around her like armor, Serena couldn't bring herself to care. For the first time in her life, someone saw her as worth keeping, even if keeping her meant locking her in a cage made of marble and bulletproof glass and a monster's obsessive devotion. Victor appeared in the doorway. "Sir, we have a problem." Adrian's expression went cold instantly. All the warmth vanished. "What problem?" "The Kazarov Circle. They've made contact. They're claiming Marcus worked for them. They want compensation for the 8 men you killed, or they're declaring open war." The temperature in the room dropped. "Compensation," Adrian repeated, his voice deadly quiet. 100 million, or your territory in the financial district." Adrian released Serena and turned to face Victor fully. When he spoke, each word was carved from ice. "Tell the Kazarov Circle they can have their compensation. In bullets, delivered personally." Victor nodded. "They anticipated that response. They've issued a formal challenge. They're targeting someone close to you to prove they're serious." Serena's blood went cold. Adrian's entire body tensed. "Who?" Victor's eyes flicked to Serena. "Her." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Adrian's hands curled into fists. "When?" "Unknown, but they've already leaked her identity to their networks. Photos from last night, her name, her background, everything. She's been marked, sir." Serena couldn't breathe. The room spun. Everything that had felt safe seconds ago shattered like glass. Adrian turned to her. His face was blank, but his eyes blazed with something beyond rage, beyond fury, something that looked like grief mixed with murder. "Change of plans," he said. "We're leaving the city, tonight. There's a compound upstate, heavily fortified, impossible to breach. You'll stay there until this is resolved." "Resolved how?" Serena whispered. Adrian's expression turned brutal. "I'm going to burn the Kazarov Circle to the ground, every last one of them. And when I'm finished, there won't be enough left to bury." Then he walked out, already shouting orders into his phone, leaving Serena alone with the terrible understanding that she hadn't just chosen danger. She'd become the trigger for a war that would paint the city red. The SUV tore through city streets at speeds that made traffic lights blur into streaks of color. Serena sat in the back seat with Victor on one side and another guard she didn't know on the other, both men armed with weapons they didn't bother hiding. Adrian rode in the front passenger seat, phone pressed to his ear, issuing orders in a voice so cold it could freeze blood. "Lock down the financial district. Pull everyone back to secondary positions. I want eyes on every Kazarov property within the hour. If they breathe wrong, I want to know about it." He hung up, dialed again immediately. "Dmitri, it's me." "Yes, I know what time it is. I need the armory opened and full tactical kits prepared for 12 men. We move at sunset." Another hang-up, another call. Serena watched the city slide past the bulletproof windows and tried to process what had just happened. One moment she'd been kissing Adrian in his office, making insane decisions about staying in his world. The next, she'd become the catalyst for a gang war that would leave bodies scattered across 3 boroughs. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Victor noticed. "Deep breaths, Miss Vale. Panic won't help." "I'm not panicking," Serena said. Her voice came out thin, unconvincing. "I'm just trying to understand how my life went from boring to nightmare in less than 24 hours. You chose Adrian Dragunov. Nightmares come with the territory." "Victor," Adrian said sharply from the front seat. Victor fell silent. Adrian turned in his seat to look at Serena. Even in the dim interior, his eyes blazed with something beyond anger, something that looked like controlled fury barely held in check. "You're safe," he said. "I won't let them touch you." "You can't promise that." "Watch me." The certainty in his voice should have been reassuring. Instead, it terrified Serena because she understood what Adrian was really saying. He would burn the entire city to ash before letting anyone harm her. And that kind of devotion wasn't protection, it was obsession. The SUV pulled off the highway onto a private road that wound through dense forest. No streetlights, no other cars, just darkness and trees pressing in from all sides. After 20 minutes of silence, broken only by Adrian's continued phone calls, they emerged into a clearing dominated by a massive structure that looked like someone had crossed a luxury resort with a military bunker. The compound sprawled across several acres. Main house built from stone and reinforced concrete, multiple outbuildings, 30-foot walls topped with cameras and sensors, guard towers at each corner. Floodlights illuminated the perimeter, turning night into artificial day. "Welcome to the safe house," Victor said as the SUV passed through heavy gates that closed behind them with the finality of a prison door slamming shut. They parked in an underground garage where armed men immediately surrounded the vehicle. Adrian climbed out first, then reached back to help Serena. His hand was warm, steady, completely at odds with the chaos swirling around them. "This way," he said. Serena followed him through corridors that looked more like a military installation than a home. Concrete walls, steel doors, security checkpoints every 50 feet. They passed rooms filled with weapons, communications equipment, enough ammunition to supply a small army. "How long have you had this place?" Serena asked. 8 years, built it after Elena died. Somewhere I could retreat when things got complicated. Complicated like now? Worse than now. The Kazarov Circle are aggressive, but predictable. There have been threats that made this look like a negotiation. Adrian stopped in front of a door that required both fingerprint and retinal scan. It opened onto a suite that somehow managed to feel both luxurious and fortified. King bed with high thread count sheets, windows made of glass thick enough to stop rockets, art on the walls that probably cost more than the entire security system. "This is your room," Adrian said. "Where's yours?" "Across the hall, security protocols. If the compound is breached, you'll have an independent safe room with its own exit." Serena looked at the bed, the expensive furniture, the carefully curated comfort designed to make captivity feel like choice. "How many women have stayed here?" she asked quietly. Adrian's expression shifted. "None. You're the first." "Natalia?" "Was never brought here. Neither was Elena or Sophia. This place was always meant to be separate, untouchable, a location my enemies couldn't connect to anyone I cared about." He paused. "Until now." The weight of that confession settled between them. "So by bringing me here," Serena said, "you've just confirmed I matter. You've painted a target on this entire compound." "Yes." No apology, no justification, just brutal honesty. Serena sat on the edge of the bed. Her legs suddenly couldn't support her weight anymore. Everything that had happened in the last day crashed over her like a wave. Marcus's betrayal, Adrian's rescue, the kiss that had sealed her fate, and now this fortress in the woods where she'd wait while Adrian went to war on her behalf. "I didn't ask for this," she whispered. Adrian crossed the room and knelt in front of her, bringing his eyes level with hers. "I know, but you're here anyway, and I need you to understand something." "What?" "The Kazarov Circle won't stop. This isn't about money or territory anymore. This is about pride. They've publicly declared you a target, which means backing down would make them look weak. So they'll keep coming until either you're dead or they are." Serena's throat tightened. "So what do we do?" "We eliminate them first." The clinical way he said it made Serena's stomach turn. "All of them?" "Every single one. The leadership, the soldiers, the infrastructure. I'm going to dismantle their entire organization and salt the earth so nothing grows back." "That's mass murder. That's survival." Adrian's hands came up to cup Serena's face. His touch was gentle despite the violence in his words. "I need you to stay here," he said. "Stay inside these walls. Trust my security. Don't try to leave or contact anyone from your old life. Can you do that?" Serena wanted to say no, wanted to demand alternatives, wanted to run. Instead, she nodded. "Good." Adrian stood. "I'll be back before morning. Victor has orders to keep you safe. If anything happens, anything at all, he'll evacuate you to a secondary location and contact me immediately." "What if something happens to you?" The question hung in the air. Adrian's expression softened, just for a moment, just enough for Serena to see the human underneath the armor. "Then Victor will make sure you disappear. New identity, new country, enough money to live comfortably for the rest of your life. You'll be free." "I don't want to be free. I want you to come back." Something in Adrian's eyes cracked. He leaned down and kissed her. Not desperate like before, but with a tenderness that felt like goodbye. When he pulled back, his voice was rough. "I'll come back. I promise." Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a soft click that sounded like the world ending. Serena sat alone in the fortified suite and tried not to think about all the promises that had been broken in her life. Hours passed in silence. Serena paced the room, tried to sleep, gave up and stared out the reinforced windows at the floodlit perimeter. Armed men patrolled in pairs, their movements precise and coordinated. Cameras tracked every shadow. The compound hummed with the constant low frequency of generators and security systems. Around midnight, Victor knocked. "Come in," Serena called. The massive man entered carrying a tray with food Serena had no appetite for and a tablet computer. "Thought you might want updates," Victor said, setting both on the desk. "The tablet has a secure feed showing Adrian's current operation. Just surveillance footage, no audio, but you can see he's alive." Serena's heart kicked. "You're letting me watch?" "Mr. Dragunov's orders. He said you deserved to know what was happening." Victor left without waiting for thanks. Serena grabbed the tablet with shaking hands and opened the feed. Multiple camera angles showed what looked like a warehouse district. Adrian and his men moved through the space in tactical formation. All black gear, assault rifles, faces covered. They moved like soldiers, clearing rooms with brutal efficiency. Then the shooting started. Serena watched men die. Watched Adrian put bullets in people without hesitation. Watched blood spray across concrete and bodies drop and chaos unfold in grainy night vision green. She should have looked away. Couldn't. This was the truth of Adrian's world. Not the expensive suits or the marble penthouse or the careful control. This, violence executed with surgical precision, death delivered without mercy. And he was doing it for her. The thought made Serena sick, made her want to scream, made her want to throw the tablet across the room and pretend none of this was happening. But she kept watching. Because if Adrian was willing to become a monster on her behalf, the least she could do was witness it. The operation lasted 90 minutes. When it was over, Adrian's team extracted and the feed went dark. Serena sat in silence with her hands trembling and her mind replaying the violence on an endless loop. A text appeared on the tablet. Phase 1 complete. 13 eliminated. Moving to secondary location. Serena typed back with numb fingers. "Are you hurt?" The response came immediately. "No, stay inside. I'll be home soon." Home. He'd called this fortress home. Serena set the tablet down and wrapped her arms around herself. The room felt too big, too empty, too much like a cage pretending to be comfort. She must have dozed off at some point because the next thing Serena knew, Victor was shaking her awake. "Miss Vale, we have a situation." Serena jolted upright. "What? Is Adrian?" "Mr. Dragunov is fine, but we've detected movement outside the compound. Multiple vehicles approaching from the access road." Fear shot through Serena's veins. The Kazarov circle? Unknown. Could be friendlies, could be hostiles. Either way, security protocols require you to move to the safe room immediately. Victor pulled Serena to her feet and practically dragged her across the hall into Adrian's bedroom. He pressed a hidden panel in the wall, revealing a steel door with another biometric scanner. "Your palm print is already registered," Victor said, pressing Serena's hand against the scanner. The door opened onto a small room lined with weapons, emergency supplies, and a communication system that looked military-grade. A second door at the back presumably led to the escape tunnel Adrian had mentioned. "Stay here," Victor ordered. "Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except Mr. Dragunov or me. If you hear gunfire, use the tunnel and follow the path to the secondary extraction point. There's a vehicle waiting with keys in the ignition. Drive east until you hit the interstate, then call this number." He pressed a card into Serena's hand with a phone number written in Adrian's handwriting. "Victor, no questions. Lock the door, now." He pushed her inside and pulled the door shut from the outside. Serena stood in the safe room listening to her heartbeat hammer and the muffled sounds of Victor shouting orders. She pressed her ear against the steel door, but couldn't make out words, just urgent voices and running footsteps. Then silence. The kind of silence that comes before violence. Serena counted her breaths. 1, 2, 3. Gunfire erupted. Not distant, not outside, inside the compound. Multiple weapons firing in sustained bursts. Shouts, screams, the sharp crack of flashbangs going off. More shooting. Serena's hand shook so badly she could barely hold the card Victor had given her. This wasn't supposed to happen. Adrian had said the compound was impenetrable, had promised she'd be safe. But nothing was impenetrable when determined people wanted you dead badly enough. The gunfire intensified, closer now, right outside Adrian's bedroom from the sound of it. Then everything went quiet. Serena held her breath. Footsteps approached the safe room door, slow, deliberate. A voice called out, "Miss Vale, it's over. You can come out now." Not Victor's voice, not Adrian's, someone else. Serena's entire body went cold. "Miss Vale," the voice repeated. "My name is Alexei Kazarov. I'm here to discuss terms, please. There's no need for further violence. Open the door and we can talk like civilized people." Terror flooded Serena's bloodstream. The Kazarov circle had breached the compound, had gotten past Adrian's security, had killed Victor and everyone else standing between them and her. "I know you're frightened," Alexei continued, his tone almost sympathetic. "But Adrian isn't here to save you. He's across the city executing my soldiers while I execute his. Mutual destruction, very dramatic, very wasteful. Unless we find another solution." Serena backed away from the door until she hit the far wall. "I'm going to be honest with you," Alexei said. "Adrian killed 13 of my people tonight. Good men, loyal men. Their families expect compensation, justice. So here's my offer. You come out, we have a conversation, and perhaps we can end this war before more bodies pile up. Or you stay in there. I plan enough explosives to turn this entire wing into rubble, and you die trapped like an animal. Your choice." Serena's mind raced. The escape tunnel. Victor had said there was a tunnel. She spun toward the back door and grabbed the handle. Locked. Not just locked, sealed. The biometric scanner next to it was dark, inactive. "The tunnel's been disabled," Alexei called out, like he could read her thoughts. "We've had people inside Adrian's organization for months. We knew about this compound, knew about the safe room, knew about every security protocol. So please, stop wasting both our time. Open the door." Serena's legs gave out. She slid down the wall and hit the floor hard. This couldn't be happening. Adrian had promised, had sworn she'd be safe, had built an entire fortress to protect her. But it had all been theater, illusion, a cage that fell apart the moment real pressure was applied. 30 seconds, Alexei said. "Then I start setting charges." Serena looked at the weapons lining the walls, pistols, rifles, ammunition, things she had no idea how to use. Adrian had talked about teaching her to shoot, but there'd been no time, no opportunity. And now she was going to die because she'd trusted a monster who couldn't even keep his promises. 20 seconds. Serena grabbed a pistol from the rack. Her hand shook so badly she nearly dropped it. She checked the safety the way she'd seen in movies, flicked it off, pointed the weapon at the door. 10 seconds. Her finger found the trigger. If they came through, she'd shoot. Would probably miss. Would die anyway. But at least she'd die fighting instead of cowering. 5, 4, 3... Wait. Serena's voice came out hoarse, broken. Silence from the other side. "I'll open the door," Serena said. "But you promise not to hurt me. You promise we just talk." Alexei laughed. "I promise I won't hurt you until we've had our conversation. Good enough?" It wasn't good enough. It wasn't even close. But Serena was out of options. She stood on shaking legs and approached the door, pressed her palm against the scanner. The mechanism disengaged with a soft click. The door swung open. Alexei Kazarov stood in Adrian's bedroom surrounded by 6 armed men. He was younger than Serena expected, maybe 40, with sharp features and cold gray eyes that studied her like she was a specimen under glass. He wore an expensive suit without a drop of blood on it, despite the carnage he'd orchestrated. "Miss Vale," he said pleasantly. "Thank you for being reasonable." Serena kept the pistol pointed at him. "Don't come any closer." Alexei glanced at the weapon and smiled. "The safety's still on." Serena looked down. He was right. Before she could fix it, one of Alexei's men moved with professional speed and disarmed her in one smooth motion. The pistol clattered across the floor. "Please," Alexei said, gesturing to a chair. "Sit. Let's talk like adults." Serena didn't move. "Where's Victor?" "Dead. Along with 17 of Adrian's guards. They fought well, died badly. Such is the nature of loyalty." Alexei walked to Adrian's desk and sat on the edge. "Here's the situation. Adrian has declared war on my organization. Tonight he killed 13 of my people. Warehouse workers mostly. Easy targets. He thinks overwhelming force will make me back down. He's wrong. Serena's throat was dry. What do you want? Initially, compensation for my losses. But Adrian refused to negotiate, so I escalated, made you the target, figured that would force him to be reasonable. Instead, he went full scorched earth, attacked my operations, killed my men, turned this into something neither of us can walk away from cleanly. Alexei paused. Unless we get creative. Creative how? You're the trigger. Remove you from the equation, the war loses its catalyst. Adrian has no reason to keep attacking. I have no reason to keep retaliating. Peace through subtraction. Serena's blood went cold. You're going to kill me. Not exactly. Alexei pulled out his phone and turned it toward her. The screen showed security footage from outside the compound, Adrian's SUV pulling up to the gates. Adrian himself climbing out, face twisted with rage, shouting at his men. He just got word about the breach, Alexei said. He's racing back here right now. Should arrive in approximately 8 minutes. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to call him. Tell him you're safe. Tell him to stand down and meet with me tomorrow to negotiate terms. If he agrees, you live. If he refuses and storms the compound, I kill you in front of him and let the guilt destroy him slowly. He'll never negotiate. Then you die. And honestly, Miss Vale, I don't particularly care which option he chooses. Both outcomes serve my purposes. But I'm curious to see if Adrian Dragunov is capable of putting someone else's life ahead of his pride. Alexei handed Serena a phone. Make the call. Serena stared at the device. Her hands shook. Her mind raced through options and found nothing but dead ends. If she called Adrian and convinced him to stand down, he'd hate himself for surrendering, would blame himself for her captivity, would eventually spiral into whatever darkness consumed men like him when they failed. If she didn't call, he'd attack, would probably die trying to save her, and she'd die anyway. There was no winning move. Tick-tock, Alexei said. Serena took the phone, dialed Adrian's number with trembling fingers. He answered before the first ring finished. Serena, where are you? Are you hurt? I'm 3 minutes out. I'm okay, Serena interrupted. Her voice cracked. I'm with Alexei Kazarov. He wants to talk. Silence. Then Adrian's voice, colder than Serena had ever heard it. Put him on. Serena handed the phone to Alexei. Adrian, Alexei said pleasantly. Glad you could join us. Here's the situation. If you've touched her. I haven't. Yet. She's sitting right here looking scared but intact, which is more than I can say for your men. Victor put up an impressive fight, by the way. Took 3 bullets before going down. Very cinematic. Adrian's breathing came harsh over the line. What do you want? A meeting. Tomorrow. Neutral ground. Just you and me. We discuss compensation, territory redistribution, and how to end this before it bankrupts both our organizations. And if I refuse, then I put a bullet in Miss Vale's head and mail you the video. Your choice, Adrian. Peace or grief? What's it going to be? The line went silent. Serena could almost feel Adrian's rage through the phone, could imagine him standing outside the compound with weapons and murder in his eyes, trying to calculate whether he could storm the building fast enough to save her. Finally, Adrian spoke. Where and when? Alexei smiled. The old Riverside Hotel. Noon tomorrow. Come alone. I'll do the same. We'll talk like civilized people and hopefully avoid further bloodshed. If she's harmed, she won't be. You have my word. Adrian laughed. It sounded broken. Your word means nothing. Then trust in enlightened self-interest. Killing her now accomplishes nothing except guaranteeing you'll hunt me forever. But keeping her alive gives us room to negotiate. I'm a businessman, Adrian. I understand leverage. Another long silence. Fine, Adrian said. Tomorrow, noon. But I want proof she's alive every hour until then. Done. I'll have her send selfies. Very modern. Alexei ended the call and handed the phone back to Serena. See? Reasonable people finding reasonable solutions. Serena's hand shook so badly she nearly dropped the phone. What happens now? Now we wait. You'll stay here under guard. Every hour you'll take a photo proving you're unharmed and send it to Adrian. Tomorrow he shows up for our meeting, we reach an agreement, and you go home to your monster. Everyone wins. You really think Adrian will negotiate? Alexei's expression hardened. He will if he wants you breathing. Pride is expensive, Miss Vale. Love is expensive. Eventually, even men like Adrian Dragunov have to choose which bill they're willing to pay. He stood and gestured to his men. Watch her. No harm comes to her unless I give the order. Clear? They nodded. Alexei walked to the door, then paused. One more thing, Miss Vale. When this is over and you're back with Adrian, remember something. He brought you into this world. He made you a target. Everything that's happened tonight, the deaths, the fear, the violence, exists because Adrian Dragunov saw you and decided you were worth keeping. So when you're lying awake wondering if you made the right choice, remember that the blood isn't just on his hands. Some of it's on yours too. Then he left. Serena sat in Adrian's bedroom surrounded by armed men and tried to breathe through the panic crushing her chest. Hours crawled past. Every 60 minutes, one of the guards handed Serena the phone and made her take a selfie holding that day's newspaper to prove the timestamp. She sent them to Adrian without words, without commentary. Just her face. Scared. Alive. Captive. His responses came back immediately every time. Just 3 words, repeated like a mantra. I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming. But he wasn't coming, not until tomorrow, not until Alexei gave permission. Because Adrian Dragunov, the most dangerous man in the city, the monster who'd killed 13 people in one night, the man who'd promised to burn the world to keep her safe, had been neutered by a simple hostage situation. And sitting there in the wreckage of his promises, Serena finally understood the truth. Love in Adrian's world wasn't protection, it was vulnerability. A weapon anyone could use if they were ruthless enough. Around dawn, exhaustion dragged Serena towards something resembling sleep. She dozed in the chair with guards watching her every breath, waiting for noon when Adrian would arrive and either save her or sacrifice everything he'd built to get her back. When she woke, pale light filtered through the reinforced windows. One of the guards was talking on his phone. His expression shifted, confusion, then alarm. He lowered the phone slowly. What? Another guard asked. That was Alexei. He's calling off the meeting. Serena's heart stopped. What? Adrian never intended to negotiate. He spent the night mobilizing every asset he controls, police, politicians, rival organizations. He's building an army. Alexei says the meeting's a trap. We're evacuating. The guard turned to Serena. Which means you're coming with us. Terror flooded Serena's veins. Where? Somewhere Adrian will never find you, at least not alive. The guards hauled Serena to her feet. She fought, kicked, screamed, made it exactly 3 steps before someone pressed a cloth over her face and the world went dark. The last thing Serena thought before unconsciousness took her was that Adrian had been right all along. People he cared about didn't survive. They just died slower. Serena woke to the smell of rust and gasoline. Her head throbbed. Her mouth tasted like chemicals. When she tried to move, her wrists pulled against something hard. Zip ties cutting into skin already rubbed raw. She forced her eyes open. Concrete floor, metal walls, single bulb swinging overhead casting shadows that moved like living things. The space was small, maybe 12 by 12, with no windows and one heavy door sealed shut. A shipping container. Serena's breath came fast and shallow. She was sitting in a metal folding chair with her hands bound behind her back and her ankles tied to the chair legs. Her phone was gone. Her shoes were gone. Someone had stripped her down to basics, easier to control, harder to run. Panic clawed up her throat. She tested the zip ties. They didn't budge. Tried to rock the chair. It was bolted to the floor. Footsteps approached from outside. Heavy boots on gravel. Multiple people. The door opened with a shriek of metal on metal. 3 men entered. Not the guards from the compound. New faces. Harder. Meaner. The kind of men who'd done terrible things so many times they'd stopped feeling human. The one in front, scarred jaw, dead eyes, tattoos crawling up his neck, smiled when he saw Serena was awake. Good morning, Miss Vale. Sleep well? Serena's voice came out hoarse. Where am I? Somewhere your boyfriend will never find you. We've been moving you every 3 hours since we left the compound. Covered hundreds of miles, changed vehicles 4 times. Right now, you're in a shipping yard outside Newark. In 6 hours, you'll be in a different container in a different city. And in 24 hours, you'll be on a boat heading somewhere Adrian Dragunov's money and influence don't reach. Terror flooded Serena's veins. Alexei promised. Alexei promised nothing that matters. He needed Adrian distracted while we repositioned assets and prepared for total war. You served that purpose. Now you're leverage for the next phase. The man pulled out a phone and started recording video. Say hello to Adrian, he said, pointing the camera at Serena. Serena stared at the lens. Her mind raced. If she begged, they'd use it against Adrian. If she stayed silent, they'd hurt her until she made noise. There was no winning move. Adrian, Serena said, her voice steadier than she felt. Don't come for me. Don't give them anything. Just... The man backhanded her across the face. Pain exploded through Serena's jaw. Her head snapped sideways. Blood filled her mouth. Try again, the man said, this time with feeling. Serena spit blood onto the concrete. Go to hell! He hit her again, harder. The chair rocked but didn't tip. Stars burst across Serena's vision. Her ear rang. The metallic taste of blood coated her tongue. We can do this all day, the man said pleasantly, or you can read the script and make everyone's life easier. He held up a piece of paper covered in typed text. Serena tried to focus through the pain. The words swam. Something about ransom demands, territory concessions, Adrian surrendering control of his financial operations. Read it, the man ordered. Serena's hands clenched behind her back. No. The third hit came from the side. Someone else. Fist connecting with her ribs. Air rushed out of Serena's lungs. She gasped, choked, couldn't breathe. Enough. A new voice. Female. Sharp. A woman entered the container. Late 30s, expensive clothes, somehow unstained despite the industrial setting, blonde hair pulled back severe. She looked at Serena with clinical detachment. You're Irina Kazarov, Serena wheezed. Alexei's sister. Clever girl. Irina dismissed the men with a gesture. They left reluctantly. I'm here to explain your situation clearly so there's no confusion. Adrian Dragunov has spent the last 12 hours mobilizing every resource he controls to find you. He's offered bounties, called in favors, turned the entire East Coast criminal underground upside down looking for any trace of where we've taken you. Irina pulled out her own phone and showed Serena the screen. News footage, burning buildings, police cordons, reporter saying something about gang violence escalating across 3 states. That's Adrian's work, Irina said. He's attacking every known Kazarov property simultaneously. Doesn't care about collateral damage, doesn't care about witnesses. Just burning everything in his path like a wildfire. 23 of my people are dead, 17 more in custody. Our operations are hemorrhaging money. All because he thinks overwhelming force will make us return you. She put the phone away. But here's what Adrian doesn't understand. We don't need you alive. We just need him to think you're alive long enough for us to extract maximum concessions. After that, you're a liability we can dispose of without consequence. Serena's throat tightened. Then why keep me breathing? Because dead hostages lose value immediately. Living hostages can be leveraged multiple times. First, we'll ransom you for territory, then for money, then for strategic withdrawals. We'll bleed Adrian dry piece by piece until he's got nothing left. And when he's finally broken, when he's sacrificed everything he built for a woman he barely knows, we'll kill you anyway, just to teach him that love is the most expensive weakness a man like him can afford. The casual cruelty in Irina's voice made Serena's stomach turn. You think he'll pay? Serena said quietly. I think he's already paying. The question is how much more he's willing to lose before accepting you're gone. Irina walked to the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I almost admire you. It takes a special kind of woman to make Adrian Dragunov burn his empire to ash. Pity you won't live long enough to see the final result. She left. The door sealed shut with a clang that echoed like a coffin closing. Serena sat alone in the shipping container and tried not to think about how she'd ended up here. About the blind date that never happened. About sitting at the wrong table. About Adrian's cold eyes and colder promises. About how every choice she'd made in the last 48 hours had led directly to this moment. Bound to a chair in a metal box, bleeding and alone. Waiting to be ransomed like cargo. Time crawled. No watch. No windows. No way to track how long she'd been here. Serena counted heartbeats, tried to slow her breathing, tested the zip ties again and again until her wrists were slick with blood and the plastic still held firm. The container grew hot as day progressed. Sweat soaked through her clothes. Thirst scraped her throat raw. She must have dozed because suddenly the door was opening again and different men were entering. These ones wearing tactical gear, moving with military precision. Not Khazarov soldiers. Something else. The lead man cut Serena's zip ties with a knife that appeared and disappeared too fast to track. Her hands fell forward, numb, useless. "Can you walk?" he asked. American accent, professional tone. "Who are you?" "Extraction team. Adrian Dragunov hired us to find you. We've got maybe 3 minutes before Khazarov security realizes we breached the perimeter. So I'll ask again. Can you walk?" Serena tried to stand. Her legs buckled. The man caught her before she hit the ground. "That's a no. Rodriguez, carry her." Another operator, massive, scarred, scooped Serena up like she weighed nothing. They moved fast, out of the container, across a shipping yard lit harsh by floodlights. Serena caught glimpses of chaos, fires burning, bodies on the ground, vehicles scattered like toys. Adrian's extraction team hadn't been subtle. They reached an armored SUV idling behind a stack of containers. Rodriguez deposited Serena in the back seat. Someone pressed a bottle of water into her hands. Someone else wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. The vehicle accelerated hard, gravel sprayed. They crashed through a chain-link fence and onto a service road. "Status?" the team lead asked into his radio. A voice crackled back. "Perimeter secure, no pursuit. Khazarov forces in full retreat." The man turned to look at Serena. "You're safe now." Safe. The word sounded like a lie. Serena's hand shook so badly she couldn't open the water bottle. Someone took it, opened it, handed it back. She drank. The liquid burned going down. "Where's Adrian?" she asked. "Coordinating cleanup. He'll meet us at the rendezvous point." "Where's that?" "Classified until we're certain we weren't tracked." Serena leaned back against the seat and closed her eyes. Every part of her hurt. Her jaw throbbed. Her ribs screamed. Her wrists burned where the zip ties had cut deep. But she was alive. Against all odds, against Irina's promises, against the certainty that she'd die in that shipping container, she was alive. The SUV drove for 40 minutes through increasingly rural areas before finally pulling into what looked like an abandoned industrial complex. More vehicles waited. More men in tactical gear. More weapons. More evidence of the private army Adrian had mobilized to find her. The SUV stopped. The door opened. Adrian was there. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 12 hours. Hair disheveled, clothes wrinkled. Blood spattered across his shirt. Not his own, Serena somehow knew. His eyes were wild, desperate. When he saw Serena, something in his expression shattered. "Serena." Her name came out broken. Adrian pulled her out of the SUV and into his arms so hard, Serena's ribs screamed in protest. She didn't care. She wrapped her arms around him and held on while he buried his face in her hair and shook. "I'm sorry," Adrian whispered. "I'm so sorry. I promised you'd be safe. I promised. I'm alive." "You're hurt." "I'm alive because of you." Adrian pulled back enough to look at her face. His hands came up to gently touch her split lip, her bruised jaw, mapping the damage with fingers that trembled. "Who hit you?" "Doesn't matter." "It matters to me. Give me names." Serena saw the murder in his eyes, saw the barely controlled rage simmering beneath his grief, saw a man who would burn the world twice over for revenge if she gave him targets. "Adrian, stop. It's over." "It's not over. They took you. They hurt you. They—" His voice cracked. "I couldn't find you. For 12 hours I tore the city apart and couldn't find you. Do you understand what that did to me, knowing you were out there, scared and alone, and I was useless? But you did find me. Only because they got sloppy. Only because one of their men made a phone call we intercepted. If they'd been smarter, you'd still be in that container. Or dead. Or worse." Serena cupped Adrian's face, forced him to look at her. "I'm here. Right now. Alive. With you. That's all that matters." Adrian's eyes closed. "I thought I'd lost you." "You didn't." "I will, eventually. They'll keep trying. Khazarov, rivals, someone will use you against me, and next time I won't be fast enough or smart enough or... Then teach me." Adrian's eyes snapped open. "What?" "Teach me to fight, to shoot, to survive. You said if I stayed there would be rules, that I'd learn to protect myself, so teach me. Make me dangerous enough that next time I'm not helpless. Something shifted in Adrian's expression. Surprise. Then something darker. Hunger. You want to become like me? I want to stop being a victim. The distinction mattered. Serena could see Adrian processing it, weighing whether turning her into a weapon would save her or destroy her. If we do this, Adrian said slowly, there's no going back. You won't be the woman you were. That version of Serena Vale, the one who ironed her dress 3 times and believed in blind dates, she dies. What's left will be something harder. Something that understands violence isn't the exception in my world. It's the currency. Serena thought about the shipping container, about Irina's casual promise of death, about spending the rest of her life as a target too weak to fight back. That woman was going to die anyway, Serena said, either in that container or the next trap or the one after that. So kill her now. Make me into someone who survives. Adrian stared at her for a long moment. Then he kissed her, hard, possessive, tasting like desperation and relief, and something that might have been pride. When he pulled back, his eyes held a new light. All right, he said. Starting tomorrow, you train. 8 hours a day, hand-to-hand combat, weapons proficiency, tactical awareness, threat assessment. By the time I'm done, you'll be able to walk through fire and come out breathing. What about the Kazarov circle? Adrian's expression went cold. They declared war. Now they get to live with the consequences. He turned to address his men. Clean sweep protocol. Every Kazarov asset in 5 states gets hit simultaneously. I want their operations gutted, their leadership scattered, their network burned to the foundation. No mercy, no survivors. Make them understand what it costs to touch what's mine. The men dispersed immediately. Adrian turned back to Serena. Come on, let's get you somewhere you can rest. He led her to another vehicle, this one even more armored than the extraction SUV. They climbed in. The door closed with a heavy thunk. As they drove away from the industrial complex, Serena watched the world slide past and tried to process what she'd agreed to. Transformation from victim to weapon, from protected to protector, from Serena Vale to something new, something that could survive in Adrian Dragunov's world. The vehicle pulled onto a highway. Adrian's hand found hers in the darkness, their fingers intertwined. You scared me, he said quietly. I scared myself. If they'd killed you, but they didn't. This time. Next time. Next time I'll be ready. Adrian was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice carrying a weight that made Serena's chest tight. I love you. The words hung in the air. Serena's breath caught. They'd known each other for less than 72 hours, had been through hell together, had kissed and fought and nearly died. But love? Love was supposed to develop slowly, carefully, not explode into existence during a hostage situation. Yet sitting there in the dark with Adrian's hand in hers and her body aching from violence and her mind still replaying the shipping container, Serena realized something terrifying. She loved him too, not despite the danger, not despite the violence, not despite the absolute insanity of everything that had happened. Because of it. Because Adrian had mobilized armies to save her, had torn the city apart looking for her, had stood in front of his men with murder in his eyes and promised to burn the world for her. I love you too, Serena whispered. Adrian's hand tightened around hers. For a moment, they just sat in silence. 2 broken people who'd found each other in the worst possible way and somehow decided it was worth keeping. Then Adrian's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. His expression went blank. What? Serena asked. Alexei Kazarov. He wants to meet. Is this another trap? Probably, but he's offering complete surrender, his entire network, territory, assets, everything, in exchange for ending the war before there's nothing left to fight over. Serena's heart kicked. Can you trust him? No, but I can accept his surrender and kill him anyway. The cold certainty in Adrian's voice made Serena shiver. When? She asked. 2 hours, neutral ground, old manufacturing district where the city doesn't pay attention to gunfire. Adrian looked at Serena. I want you to come with me. What? Why? Because Alexei needs to see what he failed to take. Needs to understand that all his planning and violence and strategy couldn't break what we have. You standing beside me while he surrenders will destroy him more thoroughly than bullets ever could. Serena thought about Irina's promises, about the casual cruelty in her voice, about hours spent bleeding in a metal box. I want to be there, she said. Adrian nodded. Then you will be. The vehicle changed direction, headed deeper into the city's industrial wasteland where abandoned factories loomed like gravestones and streetlights had been shot out years ago. They pulled up outside a warehouse with broken windows and graffiti-covered walls. More vehicles were already there. Adrian's men positioning themselves with military precision. Sniper nests, overwatch positions, escape routes. This wasn't a negotiation, it was an execution with extra steps. Adrian helped Serena out of the vehicle. She stumbled slightly, her body still weak from the ordeal. You don't have to do this, Adrian said. You can stay in the car. Serena straightened her spine. I'm not hiding anymore. Pride flickered across Adrian's face. He offered her his arm. Together they walked into the warehouse. The interior was vast and empty. Moonlight spilled through holes in the roof. Their footsteps echoed. In the center of the space stood Alexei Kazarov. Alone, no guards, no weapons visible. Just a man who'd gambled everything and lost. He looked older than his photo, tired, like the weight of failure had aged him overnight. Adrian, Alexei said. Miss Vale, thank you for coming. You have 60 seconds, Adrian replied. Then my men open fire. 60 seconds is all I need. Alexei pulled out a tablet, typed something, turned it toward them. Every asset, every account, every piece of territory the Kazarov Circle controls. I'm transferring it all to you. Complete surrender. Adrian took the tablet, scrolled through documents. His expression remained blank. Why? He asked. Because Irina's dead. Your men found the secondary location where she was coordinating operations. Put 3 bullets in her before she could run. She was my sister, Adrian, the only family I had left. This war has cost me everything. My organization is in ruins. My people are dead or scattered. Continuing serves no purpose except mutual annihilation. Adrian handed the tablet back. I accept your surrender. Relief washed over Alexei's face. Thank you. But you don't get to walk away. The relief vanished. Adrian pulled a pistol from inside his jacket. The sound of the hammer cocking echoed through the warehouse. You took her, Adrian said, voice like ice. You hurt her. You made her bleed. You threatened to kill her slowly just to hurt me. Did you really think I'd let that go unanswered? Alexei's hands raised. Adrian, please, the war is over. I'm giving you everything. You're giving me what I would have taken anyway. That's not surrender. That's just acknowledgement of reality. Killing me accomplishes nothing. It accomplishes closure. Adrian aimed the pistol at Alexei's head. Serena watched. Didn't look away. Didn't feel horror or disgust or anything except cold satisfaction. Alexei Kazarov had gambled with her life, had treated her like cargo, had promised death delivered slow. Now he'd receive it fast. Adrian's finger tightened on the trigger. Wait, Serena said. Both men looked at her. Adrian lowered the gun slightly. Serena, let me. Silence. Adrian's expression shifted through surprise, understanding, and finally something that might have been respect. He handed Serena the pistol. The weapon was heavier than she expected, cold, solid. She wrapped both hands around the grip the way she'd seen in movies. Alexei's face went pale. You don't want to do this. You're right, Serena said. I don't want to, but I need to. She raised the pistol, aimed at Alexei's chest. Her hand shook. Adrian moved behind her. His hands covered hers, steadying, supporting. Breathe, he said quietly. Exhale. Squeeze. Don't pull. Serena's finger found the trigger. This is for every woman who didn't survive what you do, she said. For every person your organization destroyed. For every promise you broke. Please. Serena pulled the trigger. The gunshot was deafening. Alexei jerked backward. Blood bloomed across his chest. He staggered, fell, didn't get back up. Serena lowered the pistol. Her hand still shook, but now from adrenaline instead of fear. Adrian took the weapon gently. How do you feel? Serena stared at Alexei's body, at the blood spreading across concrete. at proof that she'd just killed another human being. She waited for guilt, for horror, for the breakdown that was supposed to come after taking a life. Instead, she felt nothing, just cold certainty that the world was safer with Alexei Kazarov dead. "I feel like I just survived," Serena said. Adrian pulled her close. "You did more than survive. You won." Serena leaned into his warmth. "What happens now?" "Now we go home. Tomorrow you start training. Next week we consolidate the territory I just acquired. Next month—" He paused. "Next month we figure out what kind of life we can build in the space between violence. And if there's no space, then we make one." Adrian guided Serena toward the exit. His men materialized from shadows to handle cleanup. The warehouse would be empty by morning. Alexei's body would disappear. The Kazarov circle would become a footnote in criminal history. And Serena Vale, 28, former nobody, woman who'd sat at the wrong table and accidentally triggered a gang war, would become Serena Dragunov, queen beside a monster, weapon in her own right, survivor of impossible odds. They climbed into the SUV. The city sprawled ahead of them, bright and dirty and violent and beautiful. Adrian's hand found hers again. "Still with me?" he asked. Serena looked at the man who'd saved her, claimed her, transformed her, who'd burned his empire to ash finding her, who'd handed her a gun and let her choose revenge. "Always," she said. The vehicle pulled onto the highway, heading toward whatever future they could carve from the wreckage of the last 3 days. Behind them, smoke rose from the warehouse where Alexei Kazarov had learned too late that some women couldn't be broken. They could only be reforged into something sharper. The penthouse felt different when they returned. Serena walked through rooms that had seemed like a gilded cage 3 days ago and now felt like the only safe place left in the world. Victor was already there, bandaged, limping, but alive despite Alexei's claims. He nodded at Serena when she entered, respect in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Welcome home, Miss Vale," he said. Not Miss Vale. Mrs. Dragunov would come later. For now, she was just Serena, the woman who'd killed a man and felt nothing, who'd survived a shipping container and come out harder, who'd chosen a monster and meant it. Adrian guided her to the master suite. Someone had already prepared it, fresh clothes laid out, medical supplies on the bathroom counter, everything anticipated, everything controlled, except Serena herself. She caught her reflection in the floor-to-ceiling mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Split lip, bruised jaw, eyes that had seen too much in too short a time, hair matted with sweat and blood. She looked like a war survivor. She was a war survivor. "Shower," Adrian said gently. "I'll be right outside." Serena nodded, stepped into the bathroom, closed the door. The shower was marble and glass and big enough for 4 people. Serena stripped off her ruined clothes and turned the water as hot as it would go. Steam filled the space. She stepped under the spray and let it burn. Blood swirled down the drain, dirt, sweat, evidence of violence washing away like it had never happened. But Serena's hand still shook. The adrenaline was wearing off. The shock was setting in. She braced herself against the marble wall and tried to breathe through the crushing weight of what she'd done. Killed a man. Put a bullet in Alexei Kazarov's chest and watched him fall. Felt nothing. That was the part that scared her most. Not the killing. The emptiness afterward. Serena slid down the wall and sat on the shower floor with her knees pulled to her chest while water pounded overhead. The heat couldn't touch the cold spreading through her core. The steam couldn't hide the truth. She'd changed. The woman who'd ironed her dress 3 times was gone. The woman who'd believed in blind dates and normal futures was dead. What remained was something new, something harder, something that could pull a trigger without hesitation. The bathroom door opened. "Serena?" Adrian's voice. Concerned. Serena didn't answer. Couldn't. The shower door opened. Adrian stepped inside, fully clothed, water immediately soaking his shirt. He sat down beside Serena on the marble floor and pulled her against his chest. "It's hitting you now," he said quietly. Serena nodded against his shoulder. "You're wondering if you're a monster, if killing him makes you like me, if there's still anything good left inside you." "Yes." Adrian's arms tightened around her. "You're not a monster, Serena. Monsters don't feel remorse. They don't question themselves. They just take and destroy without thought. You're feeling this because you're human, because you understand the weight of what you did. That's the difference. I didn't feel anything when I pulled the trigger. You felt everything. You just couldn't process it in the moment. Your brain shut down emotions so you could survive. Now it's all flooding back. Serena's breath hitched. I killed him. You did. And I'd do it again. I know. Does that make me like you? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Water drummed overhead. Steam wrapped around them. No, he finally said. It makes you someone who refuses to be a victim. There's a difference between choosing violence as a first resort and accepting it as a last one. You're the latter. I'm the former. Don't confuse the two. Serena pulled back enough to look at Adrian's face. Water ran down his cheeks like tears he'd never actually cry. His eyes held something raw, vulnerable. I love you, Serena said. And that terrifies me. Good. It should. Love in my world is dangerous. I don't care. You will. Eventually. When the cost becomes clear. Then make it clear now. Tell me what loving you actually means. Adrian studied her face, seemed to be weighing how much truth she could handle. It means waking up every day knowing someone might use you against me. It means learning to live with violence as background noise. It means accepting that I've done terrible things and will do more. It means children, if we have them, will grow up surrounded by armed guards and bulletproof glass. It means you'll never be anonymous again. Never be safe in the normal way. Never have the quiet life you probably wanted. He paused. And it means I will burn cities to keep you breathing. We'll kill anyone who threatens you. We'll reshape the world around your safety until there's nothing left of the empire I built except whatever serves protecting you. That's what loving me means, Serena. Absolute devotion from a deeply broken man who doesn't know how to love in moderation. Serena reached up and touched Adrian's face, traced the scar along his jaw, the face of a monster who'd become her monster. I want all of it, she said. The danger, the violence, the obsessive protection, the children surrounded by guards. All of it. Because the alternative is going back to being invisible, being forgettable, being someone men like Marcus target because I'm easy to erase. And I can't do that anymore, Adrian. I can't go back to being small. Adrian kissed her, soft at first, then deeper, tasting like water and desperation and promises neither of them could keep but would die trying. When he pulled back, his eyes blazed. Tomorrow you start training. 6 months. Intensive. By the time I'm done, you'll be able to walk into any room and own it. You'll know how to fight, how to shoot, how to read threats before they materialize. You'll become dangerous enough that people think twice before using you as leverage. And after, we build something new. I'm done with the criminal empire. Alexei's surrender gave me enough legitimate assets to transition everything above board. I'll keep the security infrastructure, so we'll always need protection. But the rest can be transformed. Money laundering becomes investment banking. Protection rackets become private security contracts. Drug distribution becomes pharmaceutical supply chains. Everything cleaned up enough that our children won't inherit blood money. Serena's breath caught. Children? Adrian's hand came to rest on her stomach. Gentle, possessive. Eventually, when the world is safer, when I've eliminated enough threats, when you're ready, I might never be ready. Then we wait, or we don't have them. I won't force that future on you. Serena covered Adrian's hand with her own. I want it someday. A family. Something normal built in the middle of all this chaos. Normal is relative. Then abnormal normal. Our version. Adrian smiled. Actually smiled. It transformed his face from terrifying to almost beautiful. Abnormal normal, he repeated. I like that. They stayed in the shower until the water ran cold. Then Adrian helped Serena up, dried her off with towels that cost more than her old monthly rent, and wrapped her in a robe that felt like wearing clouds. In the bedroom, he treated her wounds with steady hands. Antibacterial ointment on her wrists, butterfly bandages on her split lip, ice pack for her bruised ribs. Professional, gentle, like he'd done this before for other people he couldn't save. Did Natalia survive? Serena asked quietly. Adrian's hand stilled. You remembered her name. You showed me her photo. told me what happened. She survived. Lives in Switzerland now. Painting therapy, medication, supervised care. She'll never be who she was before they took her, but she's alive. That's something. Do you still love her? No, I loved who she was. But that woman died in captivity. What came back was someone else. Someone I couldn't reach anymore. Serena touched Adrian's face, made him look at her. I'm not her. I know. I won't break. You already proved that. Then stop waiting for me to shatter. I'm here. I'm choosing this. Stop expecting me to run. Adrian's eyes closed. Everyone runs eventually. Not me. You say that now, I say it always. Serena pulled Adrian down onto the bed beside her, their bodies pressed together, heartbeats synchronizing, two broken people holding each other in the wreckage of the lives they'd left behind. Marry me, Adrian said suddenly. Serena's breath caught. What? Not now, not yet, but soon. When things are settled, when you finish training, when we've built enough walls between us and the world, marry me. Make it official. Let everyone know you're mine. The possessiveness should have bothered her, should have triggered every feminist instinct Serena had spent her life developing. Instead, it made something warm bloom in her chest. On one condition, Serena said. Name it. You're mine too. Equal possession, equal obsession. You don't get to claim me without being claimed in return. Adrian's smile went sharp, dangerous, delighted. Deal. He kissed her then. Not gentle, not careful. Like a man who'd almost lost everything and was now determined to hold on with both hands and all his strength. Serena kissed him back just as hard. They fell asleep tangled together as dawn crept through the bulletproof windows and painted the city in shades of gold and gray. 6 months passed like a fever dream. Serena trained 8 hours a day under instructors who'd served in special forces and private military companies. She learned hand-to-hand combat until her knuckles were permanently bruised, learned to shoot pistols, rifles, shotguns until the recoil felt natural, learned tactical driving, threat assessment, how to read a room and identify exits and calculate odds of survival in seconds. Her body transformed. Soft edges became lean muscle. Hesitation became instinct. Fear became controlled aggression. Adrian watched every session, never interfered, just observed with pride in his eyes as Serena became something new. At night, they planned the future. Adrian dismantled his criminal operations piece by piece, sold territory to trusted allies, converted illegal income streams into legitimate businesses, paid off law enforcement debts and political obligations. Slowly, methodically, he built an empire that could survive daylight scrutiny. The Dragunov name became associated with real estate development, private security consulting, international finance. Still dangerous, still powerful, but legal enough that their children wouldn't grow up knowing their father was a killer. Serena returned to school, started working toward her teaching degree. Not because Adrian demanded normalcy, but because she wanted something of her own, something that wasn't defined by violence or survival. Victor became her shadow, always 3 steps behind, always armed, the most loyal bodyguard money could buy. And through it all, Serena and Adrian built something that resembled love, but felt more like mutual obsession. They fought, made up, pushed each other's boundaries, learned to navigate the space between devotion and destruction. On a cold December morning, Adrian took Serena to a private courthouse where a judge he owned married them in a ceremony witnessed only by Victor and 2 other guards. No guests, no family, no celebration. Just vows spoken in empty chambers with the weight of everything they'd survived pressing down. I would burn the world twice over if it meant ending up with you again, Adrian said when it was his turn. Serena looked at the man she was legally binding herself to. The monster, the protector, the broken thing that had somehow become her home. You're not a good man, she said, but you're my man, and I choose you every day, in every version of this life. I choose you. The judge pronounced them married. Adrian slipped a ring onto Serena's finger. Platinum, simple, no stones because diamonds drew attention and attention drew threats. Serena did the same for him. They kissed in that empty courthouse while winter light streamed through tall windows and the city hummed beyond the glass. Mr. and Mrs. Dragunov, monster and the woman who tamed him, king and queen of an empire slowly transforming from shadow to light. That night, Adrian brought Serena to the restaurant where they'd met. Maison Noire had been closed for months after the events that started everything. Adrian had bought it quietly, renovated it completely, and now was reopening it as something new. They walked through the entrance, no longer unmarked, now elegant with their name etched in gold letters. Inside, everything had changed. Different layout, different furniture, different energy. But the corner table remained. The table where Serena had sat by accident, where Adrian had found her, where everything began. They sat across from each other now, married, changed, survivors of impossible odds. "Do you regret it?" Adrian asked. "Sitting here that night?" Serena thought about Marcus, about the shipping container, about pulling a trigger and feeling nothing, about 6 months of training and transformation, about legally binding herself to a man who'd killed more people than he could count. "Not for a second," she said. Adrian's hand found hers across the table. "Even knowing what it cost?" "Especially knowing what it cost. Because the alternative was disappearing into trafficking network and dying anonymous, or surviving and going back to ironing clearance dresses and believing blind dates might save me. Either way, that version of me was dead. You just gave me the chance to choose what replaced her." "And what did you choose?" Serena squeezed his hand. "Something dangerous, something real, something that scares me every day but never makes me feel small." Adrian raised his glass. Whiskey, neat, the way he always drank. "To being scared but never small." Serena raised hers. "To choosing monsters who choose us back." They drank. Around them, the restaurant filled with carefully vetted guests, politicians who owed Adrian favors, businessmen who respected his transformation, associates who'd helped dismantle his criminal empire and rebuild something legal in its place. No one from Serena's old life. That door was closed. Those people knew a woman who no longer existed. After dinner, Adrian walked Serena up to the penthouse, their home, the fortress that had been a cage and became a sanctuary. They stood on the terrace overlooking the city, the same terrace where Serena had questioned everything 6 months ago, where she'd asked Adrian what he wanted and he'd admitted he wanted her. "I'm pregnant," Serena said. The words fell into the cold night air. Adrian went very still. "What?" 2 weeks. I found out yesterday. Wanted to wait until after the wedding to tell you." Adrian turned to face her. His expression cycled through shock, fear, joy, terror, landing somewhere between all of them. "Are you sure?" "Took 3 tests, all positive." "How do you feel?" Serena laughed. "Terrified, excited, completely unprepared. Exactly how you'd expect." Adrian pulled her close. His hand came to rest on her stomach, where nothing showed yet, but everything was changing. "We're not ready," he said. "We'll never be ready. The world isn't safe enough. It never will be. I don't know how to be a father. You'll learn, same way I'm learning to be more than a victim." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, voice rough with emotion. "I'm going to protect them. The way I couldn't protect my mother. The way I almost failed to protect you. I'll build walls so high nothing gets through. We'll build them together. They'll grow up knowing their father was a monster. They'll grow up knowing their father chose to change. That's more important." Adrian kissed the top of Serena's head. "I love you, both of you." Serena leaned into his warmth. "We love you too." They stood on the terrace while the city glowed below them, bright and violent and beautiful and theirs. A kingdom built from blood and transformed through will. An empire that would pass to their child and hopefully be something better by then. Something cleaner. Something that remembered the darkness but didn't live there anymore. 7 months later, Anya Dragunov was born during the first snowfall of winter. Serena labored for 19 hours in a private hospital with armed guards outside every door and Adrian refusing to leave her side. When their daughter finally arrived, screaming, perfect, impossibly tiny, Adrian cried for the first time since he was 12 years old. He held Anya like she was made of glass and promises, stared at her with wonder in his eyes. "She's beautiful," he whispered. Serena, exhausted and triumphant, smiled. "She has your eyes. And your strength, I can already tell." Victor appeared in the doorway. Perimeter secure, sir. No threats detected. Adrian nodded without looking away from his daughter. Good. Double the guards anyway, and start background checks on everyone who comes within 50 feet of this floor. Already done. Victor disappeared. Serena watched Adrian rock their daughter with a gentleness that contradicted everything he was. The monster holding an infant, the killer cradling new life, the man who'd burned cities learning to change diapers. What kind of world did we bring her into? Serena asked quietly. Adrian looked up, met her eyes. A dangerous one, but one where she'll never be invisible, where she'll grow up knowing she matters enough to protect, where the worst parts are behind us and the best parts are still being built. He paused. Is that enough? Serena thought about the woman she'd been 18 months ago, drowning in debt, alone, invisible, one bad date away from disappearing forever. Then she thought about who she was now, trained, dangerous, married to a monster who'd become a man, mother to a child who would grow up surrounded by guards and love, and the knowledge that her parents had fought through hell to give her a chance at something better. It's more than enough, Serena said. It's everything. 2 years passed. Anya grew into a toddler with Adrian's dark eyes and Serena's quiet determination. She took her first steps in the penthouse while Victor watched with a gun hidden under his jacket. Spoke her first words, Dada and Mama, and somehow, impossibly, Victor, while surrounded by people who would die to keep her safe. The Dragunov Empire completed its transformation. Adrian became known as a ruthless but legal businessman. His security company protected diplomats and celebrities. His real estate holdings spanned 3 continents. His investment portfolio made financial papers without ever mentioning the blood money that seeded it. Serena finished her degree and started teaching at a private school where her background checks came back clean because Adrian had paid to have certain records sealed. Her students knew her as Mrs. Dragunov, the teacher with the gentle voice and the bodyguard who waited outside her classroom. She never told them about the gun in her desk drawer, or the training she maintained 3 times a week, or the fact that she could disarm someone in 4 seconds and drop them in 6. Some truths were better left unspoken. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, Serena stood in the nursery watching Adrian read to Anya. He'd become the kind of father who did voices for picture book characters and built elaborate blanket forts and never forgot to tuck in stuffed animals at bedtime. The transformation was complete, not perfect. Adrian still woke sometimes with nightmares, still checked windows and doors obsessively, still saw threats and shadows, but the violence had receded enough for tenderness to take root. Any regrets? Adrian asked, looking up from the book. The same question he'd asked the night Anya was born. The question that defined their entire relationship. Serena looked at the man who'd saved her by accident and kept her by choice, at their daughter who represented everything good they'd managed to build from wreckage, at the life that had cost so much and given back more. Not one, Serena said, and she meant it, because sitting at the wrong table had led her here, to this moment, to this family, to this impossible life built from violence and devotion and 2 broken people deciding they were worth fixing. The city glowed beyond the windows, distant and harmless for once. Anya laughed at something in the book. Adrian's hand found Serena's across the space between them, and in that moment, domestic and quiet and everything Serena had never dared dream she could have, she understood the final truth. Monsters could change, victims could become warriors, and love, when forged in fire, could survive anything, even a blind date that never happened, even a restaurant where the wrong table became the right choice, even the impossible odds that said people like Adrian and Serena should never work. They'd beaten every prediction, survived every threat, built something that shouldn't exist but did anyway. Late that night, after Anya was asleep and the penthouse had settled into quiet, Serena stood on the terrace one more time. Adrian joined her, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For sitting at my table, for staying, for choosing this, for giving me a reason to become someone worth loving. Serena turned in his arms, looked up at the man who'd been her captor and became her partner, her monster, and her salvation. You were always worth loving, she said. You just needed someone brave enough to see it. Adrian kissed her under the winter stars while their daughter slept safe behind bulletproof glass and armed guards and walls built from love disguised as obsession. And somewhere in the city below, in restaurants and shipping containers and warehouses where terrible things happened, other women made choices that would change their lives. Some would survive, some wouldn't. But Serena had survived, had thrived, had turned a nightmare into a family and a monster into a man and a cage into a home. The rain that had fallen the night they met was gone now. The sky was clear, the city was quiet, and Serena Dragunov, formerly Serena Vale, formerly nobody, formerly invisible, stood in the arms of the most dangerous man in the city and smiled. Because she'd sat at the wrong table, made the wrong choice, trusted the wrong instincts, and somehow, impossibly, it had led her exactly where she needed to be. Home.